What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of One Too Many with Kyle Glenn. That is me, your host. Welcome back. Thank you for tuning back in. Man, I just had such an incredible catch-up with my great friend, Spenser and I. I love you so much, bro. Thank you for coming on the show. I can't wait for you to hear this and listen to this, and for everybody else to get to know a little bit about you, more about me, and the life of a bartender and actor here in New York City. Spenser Grenice is no longer a bartender. However, he and I work together down in the Lower East Side at a place called The Back Room, a speakeasy down in the Lower East Side, located on Norfolk and Delancey Street. We have known each other since the end of 2015, bartended together at there, and also he came over to Lebanon for a little while over at the Standard Hotel in the Meatpacking District. This man is an incredibly humble, an incredibly empathetic, intelligent, smart, if those two are different, and just real human being who has gone through so many trials and tribulations, and he just keeps learning and growing as a person, and he's having so much great success in the acting world. I cannot wait to see where the rest of his career is to go. He and I haven't seen each other in a couple of months, so we had a great catch up before this, and then we got down to talking to some service industry and nightlife and bar life topics here on the episode. You are not going to see him. We did not record on camera. We only did an audio version for you guys. So stay tuned. We talk a lot about the relationship with alcohol that he has had, and that I have had throughout the years, and how many other bartenders have to balance their life working around and with alcohol specifically. We talk a lot about what it means to be a bartender in New York City while balancing your life as an actor, how that kind of lifestyle works itself out. And we also get into some really interesting stuff towards the end here about being an entertainer in the city while having to bartend for people who work in entertainment, which not a lot of cities outside, I think, of New York or LA, Chicago, Miami, you don't really get to experience that a whole lot out here in New York especially, and I can only speak for New York. Whether you're working in catering, whether you're working as a bartender at, a certain bar or restaurant, you don't know who you're going to see at any given moment. You don't know what kind of event you're going to be working at, and you can have these casual run-ins with all kinds of celebrities at any given moment, and that can be quite a disheartening, belittling, embarrassing thing sometimes when you are working in the service industry in order to fulfill your goals of becoming a successful entertainer. So stay tuned. There are just some fucking hilarious bits in here. You're going to love it. Quite an interesting man, quite an interesting conversation. Please stay tuned for Spenser Grenice here on One Too Many. Cheers. Yeah, we can be starting now. We can consider this a start. It could be a slow start.
It's a very slow start.
You're like, isn't this the part where you're supposed to ask me questions?
Yeah.
No, these people love just to hear me laugh.
Do they?
You're like,
That's why they tune in?
Yeah, that's exactly why they tune in. You're like, well, that's creepy.
Yeah.
You're now on the ASMR podcast, One Too Many with Kyle Glenn, featuring my guest for today.
Is that ASMR? I don't know. I got... Right? Is that it? This is great, Kyle. I hope you definitely post this.
The drinking even sounded good.
Good.
A nice fresh.
Couple people masturbating already.
Yeah.
Do they masturbate to ASMR?
Yes, I think
Is
people
that
do.
a thing? Is that
I
like a
think people do.
fetish?
Yes. Yes.
That's interesting.
ASMR is a fetish.
Huh.
But it's also like there's a lot of people that use it for like calming their anxiety, like
That's probably more along the lines of what it was. I doubt. I mean, there's probably. Imagine people, just masturbate to everything in one room.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the thing. It started to become like sexy. Like people were that people started doing their videos to it. You're seeing like beautiful women and all, everybody made it more sexual, and then they're doing more sexual sounds through the microphone, and
Interesting.
the video might be on their mouth, like literally just their mouth as they're saying something into the microphone.
I guess
so
all I knew about it was just they eat like sushi and like chew into the microphone.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, I thought it was all food shit.
Oh.
But I don't know.
No, but there's
about that community. So
there's also, I don't really know much about it either, but I've seen other people that do all kinds of like whispering into the thing. They'll be talking like really like this, which you can't really hear because you don't have headphones on right now. But if you want to put these headphones in,
right
I know, but it's nice when you got it right in your ears.
Right. No,
You know what I mean?
I get that.
Yeah, so it's like a super quiet whisper, so it feels like really like.
Yeah.
And it's like
it's very intimate. This is weird. This is weird. You're just whispering. Holy shit, this is a train wreck. All right, let's keep going.
I don't think this is a train wreck. This is perfect. This is
Okay,
exactly
great.
where
This
I want
is
this to
what
go.
you want? Great. Awesome.
Yes.
I'm glad.
Because this is
stack up.
because
to
this
your
is authentic.
standards of podcasts.
Yeah.
Entertainment.
This is exactly why I got you on here. It's that dry humor. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That like cynical dry humor you got. It's fucking hilarious.
That's
Oh man, you've always been like that, but that's why I appreciate you and I love you. And that's it's kind of funny because, I'm the loud, fucking annoying type.
Yeah.
And you're the quiet, like, dark,
It's a miracle
cynical.
that we're friends.
But it makes sense though.
It's interesting.
It makes sense though.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
You're like, how the fuck do I keep hanging around this kid?
Well, because
And
you're a good friend, and
yeah.
that outweighs any other kind of, I don't know, word behavior. I'm really good at finding words right now.
It outweighs any behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
I learned that from Drake. I'm on my
Yeah, it's
best.
interesting though. I mean, when just to be candid, I think when you first started working at Backroom, I didn't see us being friends, to be honest with you.
No, you judged the shit out of me. You hated me.
Yeah, I didn't hate you.
No, I know you didn't hate me.
I didn't hate you. I don't hate anybody unless I really like have a reason to hate them.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel like we had much in common.
Right.
And I wasn't like a dick, but I just didn't see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
But I think throughout the years, I mean, when I recommended an acting class because you were looking for one, I think that's what kind of solidified friendship. I would say we were at work too, but I guess it just goes to show, don't just assume you're not gonna get along with someone because of what's going on outside. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, we also weren't seeing each other that much in the beginning.
I can't
at the
remember.
back
That shit
room
was a blur, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's when we were working at the back room, which was technically my second job. I had worked at a fucking tavern actually right over here in Murray Hill, right when I came out to New York, aside from doing catering jobs. But I ended up getting that job at the back room in December of 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And this is crazy because I'll never forget this, and I think you remember this as well. You and I went to the same open call. We were next to each other when we filled out the application and everything like that, like in the bar.
Were we?
Yes.
Whoa.
And I can't remember if I went before you and got interviewed, or if you were right after, or if I was after you, or if I was before you. But then a couple days later, I'm on the G train. And for people listening that don't know, the G train is a Brooklyn only a train that only runs through Brooklyn. It runs up to, well, technically Queens as well. It's, the last stop, the northern last stop of it is in Long Island City, which is technically Queens. But it runs from there all the way down to like South Brooklyn. And I was living off the G train, and I ran into you. I think it was on the G train. Maybe it was the L or the A or something like that. But I ran into you like a week or two later. I get on the same train line as you, and I'm like, oh, shit, yo, Spencer, like, what's up, dude? I'm like, how's it going?
You have a really good memory.
Yeah.
I don't remember this, bro.
Yeah. I ran into you on the train.
Okay.
Randomly. Somewhere in the city.
Yep.
And you, like, recognized me because it was recent. And, you know, we obviously, like, had an exchange when we were at, you know, filling out our application for the back room. And for those listening who don't know, the back room is a speakeasy down on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. It's one of the actually oldest standing speakeasies in Manhattan, and it was a real one for legit mob. And I can't remember. Do you remember?
Can you say that? Is that, like...
Yeah, it's a well-known fact about it, of course.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you usually just say, like, affiliated. And then people get the idea.
No. They're past that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Mob owned.
No, it's no. I didn't say it was mob owned. Okay, I'm not gonna say that. But back in the day, it was a legit speakeasy for the mob. And I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. But anyways, ran into you on the train, said hi, and then I asked you if you got the job, and you were like, yeah, I got it. And I didn't have the job at that time, but then they hit me up a couple weeks later, and they're like, hey, listen, we really like you. We think you're a good person. We don't have a job for you behind the bar, but we need someone to do events. Because they would always have events
That's when you would show up.
in the bookcase room, the room behind the bookcase, right?
Yes.
So I would only come in on Fridays or Saturdays. Yep. Mostly it was Fridays, right. And I would work
Fridays, yeah.
And I would work, in the back room, the back room, right? Mm-hmm. You worked Friday nights. Mm-hmm. That was like your main staple. I think it was just that one night, right, to start.
I think so.
Right. But then after about a month of me doing that, Ryan, I think, stopped really showing up for work or something like that. Yeah. And then I started taking on the Friday night shifts, and that's where I really like kind of cut my teeth, you can say. Yeah. Behind like a real fast-paced New York bar.
Which that place shouldn't be a fast-paced fucking bar as a speakeasy where you're like putting, you're 6 deep and you got to put every single bottle of fucking beer in a bag. And everything's made in these little dinky ass teacups that like the fucking drink spills out of when you're passing it to somebody. And I'm just like, this is a very terrible design for, to have this be like a touristy kind of destination. Yeah, which it was, which is also weird because speakeasies are typically intimate and quiet. So it was kind of like the Disneyland version of a speakeasy. Kind of, but like that's New York nightlife. A lot of the speakeasies here get that like huge touristy thing because it's like, wow, speakeasies were a thing. Yeah, but they don't get that. Alcohol was illegal and all this kind of shit. Yeah, but they don't get that busy. They don't get as busy as the back room did. I've been at speakeasies and they get, because they're smaller. The back room was big compared. The back room is big, but also, I think it got that busy and that big though, for a couple of reasons, and we can talk about this. One, it's big. 2, it was a legit speakeasy. Like it's not just somebody who opened a bar and calls it a speakeasy, right? Because it's dim lighting, because it's might have a little secret way to get in, or you need a passcode to get in. It was a legit speakeasy. So whenever they've been written up in all kinds of articles, all that kind of shit. It's the back room is also a staple, or was a staple for the show Boardwalk Empire. They would shoot in there all the time. And so I think it's a combination of that. But yes, they fucking packed the place out. We would be slammed for hours. The only other speakeasy that I know of that is like that is Bathtub Gin in Chelsea. Oh yeah, it's been a long time. Which is not big. It is small, but you go in there and that place gets like packed out, like fucking busy. It's true. But yeah, the back room is super cool. Like Spencer was just saying, everything is served in teacups.
they put their beers into plastic bags. If you're getting a beer on draft, it goes into a nice little mug, like a coffee mug.
Oh, that's right. Those fucking mugs, yeah.
And it's crazy. Like, I kind of met you in a time in my life where I had just moved to New York. I was fucking grinding my ass off like crazy. And, that was a huge opportunity for me. I don't know where you were in life as a bartender and as a person before getting that job. I don't even know how long you were in New York before that. But can you kind of explain to me kind of like what got you, like what took you there? Like what got you to the back room? Like where did that kind of journey start for you bartending? 'Cause
I mean, I had been in New York for 4 years at that point.
Oh, okay, cool. Crazy.
Yeah, I moved here in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, been there. It was 2016 when I worked at back room. Right? Or was it the end of 2015?
End of 2015, yeah.
Okay, so almost 3 years.
So 3 something, yeah.
And I don't remember how I found my way there. I mean, basically, I moved to New York to pursue film.
Right.
I didn't yet want to be. I always wanted to be an actor, but I didn't think that was a tangible goal. So I went and worked in crew.
That's
and
right.
I was doing crew work, and I worked every different department for the year and a half. I did PA, did locations, art department, costume, and by the end of it, I was ADing, and I said, "Motherfucker, I just want to be an actor and make my own shit."
Mm-hmm.
So I left that world and I went back to bartending. But that was I left bartending. I mean, I went back to bartending in probably 2014, I would say.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, man, I just had a ton of different bar jobs all over Brooklyn and the city, and I was getting fired from them because I wouldn't come in because I had an audition for some fucking, shit on backstage. I was like, I gotta go. It's very important. I have to get my reel built. And they're like, we don't give a fuck. Get behind the bar. And I'm like, well, I quit. And I would lose bar jobs left and right, and got kicked out of apartments because I didn't have rent, and just to pursue this fucking shit. And it was a nightmare. And I was like, what am I doing? Yeah, man, I don't remember how I found Backroom. I think it was on Craigslist.
It was on Craigslist, yeah.
And I was just
100%.
I really needed a job, and I was like, whatever. And I had worked at a lot of bars. Probably at that point in my life, I'd been in the bar world for, I don't know, I would say 5 years.
Uh-huh.
So, I had the experience. But, yeah, so that's how I ended up there, was just because I needed to go back to bartending after working in crew to figure out the,
mm-hmm.
very tenuous, treacherous path of being an actor. So that's why.
I freaking love that. I love that. Well, it's crazy because I just think it's funny because you and I are similar. I mean, you are a different level when it comes to the way that you've gone through jobs and the way you would just quit things because you just don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? You're like, no, I'm out of here. Fuck you. Goodbye. I mean, the shit that you're like that as a bartender as well. Yeah. Which was always fucking hilarious to be around. Like, I would just die.
Well, people liked me more because of it, because we had some people that, I get that you have to have a dynamic between the people behind the bar, but I always found that, like, the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, in your face kind of bartenders were the ones they would, like, flock away from, and they'd come to me, and I'd be like, what do you want? And they'd be like, this, and I'm like, cool. And I'm like, it's this much money. And then they give me the money, and I'm like, thanks. And that's it. I don't need to be any kind of way. And I think, for me anyway, that's how I want my bartenders to be. Mm-hmm. I do not want my bartenders smiling in my fucking face and, like, being too much. And it just comes across as, ingenuine.
Yeah. But it can, for sure.
It can. It just depends,
Yeah.
But yeah, that was always my approach, for sure, is not that I don't give a fuck. It's more just I don't know. Yeah.
Well, because
it's apathy.
Yeah, it was never important. I mean, it was never important to you. You know, you like we were talking about earlier before we started the podcast. You know, you had always been manifesting your world in acting, and you'd
trying to manifest.
Right. Okay. Sure. Trying to manifest.
Yeah.
You know, you'd always put that first, which I totally respect, and I do too. And I've just been very fortunate enough. I've been fortunate enough that, you know, I've had staff and managers who have allowed me to, you know, take off of work whenever I need to take off, get out of the bar whenever I need to get out.
That is one thing I'd say about Backroom, though. Pete, rest in peace, was really supportive and very cool about. That's why I was there for a good amount of time.
Yeah, year and a half, something like that.
And you know, he was so supportive. So I was like, hey, I booked this show on TV or whatever, and he'd be like, "Oh, that's great, Spencer." Like, all right, you know, and like, and he'd be like, "Well, just get your shift covered," and you know, he was great, man.
He was
awesome.
He was,
but so that's what keeps me around. It's just the people that, you know, I'll give a fuck about, you know, your business if you give a fuck about my business. But if it's not reciprocated. And I know that's not like a requirement. That's not how the real world is, but that's just how I work. And I'm like, if it doesn't feel like you don't give a fuck and there's no flexibility for my world, then I have none for you.
1,000%.
I don't need to be here.
1,000%.
I'll figure it out, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
what was one of the craziest, like, departures from a bar that you've had?
Bar?
Yeah, like, did you ever, like, storm out? Did you ever snap on a fucking manager? Was there some crazy shit that happened that you just, like, walked out on a shift?
Trying to think.
Anything like that?
You know what? No, not in bars.
You always kind of... Okay, yeah.
I would just be like, you know, either they just be like, hey, you know, you're taking too much time off, or you're getting your shifts covered too much, or, you know, or like, hey, we need you to be here. I was like, I can't get my shift covered. They're like, well, you need to be here. I'm like, well, I can't be, sorry. You know, and I just tell them on the phone. But it's never like, it was never like, you know, big swinging dick like, well, fuck you, and like pulling a whole, you know, like Scarface and Half Baked moment or whatever. You know, it was kind of like, just like, okay, well, I understand your plight. This is my plight. Do you understand it? And they couldn't work with me, then I can't work there anymore. You know?
Yeah.
No, bars, no. The best thing I have is when I was a homeless teenager and I was working at Fudruckers in Virginia. And I was a cook. I was a line cook. And the uniforms were atrocious. I was 17 going on 18. And again, I was homeless. I was living somewhere. I don't remember. I still had my car at that time, so probably sleeping in my car. But I was trying to work there, and I was such a little fucking punk. And the uniforms were just, it was like an acid wash apron with a bright red shirt and an acid wash denim cap with a yellow bandana around your neck. And that yellow bandana drove me fucking insane. I was like, I am not wearing that shit. And they had like an open face kitchen, so it faces the dining room.
Yeah.
And so I remember I would always not come in with my yellow bandana. My manager was like this very meek, like, hey, can you? He was never like an asshole. And I was like, okay, yeah, like, and he always have like a, you know, extras in the back, and he was like, just put it on. And I was like, okay, man, all right. But then one day I was having a really bad day. And I came in and I didn't have the bandana, and we were slammed, and I was like, had all these burgers and shit. And he came out and he had like the most attitude he's ever had, which wasn't much for this man. And he was like, oh, if I have to tell you again to wear your bandana, Spencer, I swear. And I was like, oh, and he came back with a bandana and he gave it to me, and I took it and I just threw it on the grill, and it just went. and I walked out. It was just so stupid. I was living out of my car. I was living out of my car. I should have not done that. I needed the money, you know, but I was Such a little fucking shit. Yeah.
Just threw it on the grill and it just goes up in flames and you walk out.
Yeah. Yeah. What a shithead.
See, that's exactly what I needed you for. A story like that.
Jesus.
That's
man.
gonna make the entire fucking podcast
I didn't
right
do
there.
that as an adult, though. You know, those teenage years. But
holy fuck, that is incredible.
Bar life, no.
Just
it was always just, I quit, or I would just not show up and not answer their call, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But
as a bartender in New York, you're very disposable.
Yeah.
Let's just get that out there for anybody listening.
Yeah.
If you don't want to work,
if you're in service in general, anywhere,
right,
you're disposable.
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely.
In this city, anywhere you're fucking disposable. That's
right.
how people view you. That's how employees view you. I mean, employers,
right,
and employees too, I guess sometimes. But I mean, it's a very unforgiving industry.
Yeah, I remember when I first moved out here. Before I even moved out here, I was sending my resumes to restaurants and bars, and actually to get my job at the Standard Hotel, I started reaching out to them because I had visited New York in 2015 in July, and I ended up breaking up with my girlfriend, and we went through this whole thing. I ended up sleeping on my friend's couch for a month and a half, 2 months, and I was hitting the Standard up since September of 2015 or maybe even earlier. I didn't even, and I would follow up with HR every month, sometimes every 2 to 3 weeks. Just be like, hey, are you guys hiring? Has anything happened? Did anybody leave? I would really still love to get my, send my stuff over and come in for an interview if they're looking for anybody, blah, 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 blah. And it was no for months. Finally, in March or April, I think I started in May, so it was probably April of 2016. This is now 5 months after I've been in New York. I get an email saying that there's an open call over at Le Bon. And obviously I hop on it. I get there, I have a great interview, they love me, and I end up getting hired. And it's just it's crazy because that's the comp. I mean, they probably saw fucking 150 to 200 people that open call. They did three days of open calls for bartenders, and I think they hired about 15 bartenders that over those couple of days because they need, for that place to run, they need about 20 to 25 bartenders. And you actually had a little gig there.
Yep. Quit that too.
Quit that one too.
Sorry about that. It was your name you put on the line.
I recommend Spencer. He gets hired, comes in.
I mean, listen.
Does his thing. Books a gig.
Two
gigs.
And that's why I left, because I just couldn't. I was like, oh, and I already had 2 strikes at work anyway because of I don't remember what, and probably attitude most likely, or just because they're just no, that was one of them. They're just can you be a little bit more vibrant, just a little bit, a little bit more energy. And I was like, oh, this isn't gonna last. I need to figure something out. 'Cause I can't fake that shit, and I won't do it.
Right.
I respect people who can. I really do. Honestly, I just fucking can't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I already had 2 strikes, and I was like, oh, dude, I'm close. I'm so fucking close to losing this job. And God, I sound like such a fucking loser. Like, I can't hold down a bar job.
Oh my god.
But it was all kind of choice, I mean, it just couldn't shift my perspective as well as I can now. But
right.
Yeah, I ended up getting one job, and then I got another job the end of the same week or whatever, and I was like, I have to go to Pittsburgh. I can't, blah, blah, and can't work here anymore. And they sent me an email being like, oh, we're so happy for you. And I was like, oh, it's so nice to end on that note than, just ghosting them or getting fired because of my 3rd strike for whatever that might have been. But it was coming for sure. I just not, the only places I really belonged was the longest job I ever held was Brooklyn Bazaar, because it was a venue and it was different crowd every night because it was different bands and different events, and
right.
It was fairly lawless, and it was just vodka sodas and cracking beers and plasticware and cash all in hand at the end of the night.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just like, that was where I could like thrive and and work as a bartender because you know, no rules, but barely.
Yeah.
And plus I was always around. I've seen like every band I ever wanted to see, I saw because they played that place, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that was the last bar job I had, and it took a while to find something that stuck for more than a year.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm glad you went there because that was actually going to be my next question and my segue, because I was going to say, you know, there are places for you to work. There are places for every bartender. You know, Le Bon's a good place for me. Like these kind of like cocktail bars are a good place for me in the way that I like to speak with people and talk and interact with people and stuff like that.
You're a people person, though. You're really good at that. I'm not so much. I can be a very personable person when I want to be. Mm-hmm. But if I, you know, am in a place where I'm unhappy, I'm not able to do it.
Right.
So, but you're very outgoing. You're a very extroverted person. I'm very much the opposite, I feel.
Right.
You know, so I feel like that works for you in those kinds of environments.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but that's what I was going to get to, because I haven't been to Brooklyn Bazaar, but you are very much a dive bar bartender, a venue bartender, where it's like you don't have regular. Well, in dive bars you do, right?
Oh yeah.
But at a venue place like Brooklyn Bazaar, and I'm sure they have some regulars, obviously. I don't know if they're just open regularly, but you know, that's your world. You know, you're like a metalhead, punk rocker, like rock and roll dude. Mm-hmm. And well, I mean, you know, that's what I'm.
No, I know that's
what I'm describing you as. But you're definitely a metalhead.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think. I think you can agree to that at least. But
yeah,
you know, you play in a metal band. You know, and I think that's the majority of the bands that played at Brooklyn Bazaar. No, more.
I was all over the place.
There was a lot
of metal, but there was like hip hop. There was indie. There was pop.
Okay, cool.
There was. I mean, it was everything.
Yeah.
There was raves that went till. Those are the only times I really wanted to murder anyone was those nights, because it was late nights. The whole room was filled with smog. I couldn't even see my well in front of me because the place was filled with so much fog, and every single fucking idiot in there was like all Generation Z, much younger, all on Molly, not tipping, asking for water, and maybe be open till fucking 5 a.m.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare. And just blasting like dubstep and techno like in my head over. You can't hear shit. It was that was when I was like, why I'm gonna leave. I have to piss.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
I have to edit that, but
that's fucking hilarious, dude. That is fucking hilarious. And I think that's even funnier because, I don't fuck with dubstep. And I'm not a huge techno guy, but I can listen to house music all day long, and that's where I can thrive, like in a house music nightclub. That's my shit. That is my shit. We're gonna take a second here. Little old Bo Beep is going to the bathroom. For anybody who is listening while we're on this quick little break, Brooklyn Bazaar is obviously located in Brooklyn. Their website is currently under construction. Let's see here. BK Bazaar, Brooklyn. It is right over on Greenpoint Avenue in Greenpoint. So if anybody knows Greenpoint is the northern tip of Brooklyn. Music venue over there, as Spencer said. They cover all kinds of genres, from indie to dubstep to metal to hip hop to punk. Everything over there. I haven't been there personally, but you can find them on essentially the corner of Greenpoint Avenue and Manhattan Avenue, right off the G train.
Are you telling them to go to Brooklyn Bazaar?
I'm telling them where it is, yes.
Well, it closed down in 2019.
And it's closed down, so you cannot go there. As it says right there on Google, permanently closed.
Yeah, it looks like it looks like something out of Mad Max on the outside now. It's like all boarded up with graffiti and trash and homeless people, and it's very different.
Well, it's because you left.
Not very different. It's pretty close to what.
That's because you left.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't survive without you.
Oh yeah, man, totally. No, they shut down the whole fucking place. All at once.
Okay.
All of us were like, "Oh, we're done."
And why? Can we get into that?
Because the rent went up too high.
Oh, okay.
And they couldn't afford it anymore.
Okay, I thought there was a little extracurricular things going on there that I thought they were getting in like some huge lawsuit or something like that. I thought you told me something about that, so maybe I'm wrong.
Lawsuit, no.
I'm wrong. Okay,
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Completely wrong.
Completely.
Yeah. I think we should talk about a little bit about your journey out of bartending, because you haven't been bartending for what now, 2.5 years
Since Bazaar closed in November of 2019.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do you think that's kind of been like one of the best things that ever happened to you?
Yes, because I'm out of that world, and it was a very toxic world for me. I've also been, I'll be, free from alcohol 4 years in May.
Crazy.
Not one drop. And so I started that I started going dry when I was working at Bazaar. So that last year was, it was tough to get through. But I did it. And
so crazy.
yeah, when they closed, I mean, I was like, okay, they're closed. I don't want to go back to bartending ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a little bit of money to last just like through, it was now going into, that was the end of November. So we had like the holidays, Christmas, whatever. I wanted to get through December. And then me and my partner went out to LA to live in January through February of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, my money's going down. I was auditioning for things. So I got close to a couple of things and I just didn't get it. And I was like, fuck, I'm going to have to go back to bartending, I think. I don't know. I mean, I really hope not, but.
Mm-hmm.
And then this thing happened. It was like a virus. I don't know if you heard about it, but it hit like the whole world. And yeah, so it basically ruined everything and things shut down. And it didn't ruin everything, though, because I got unemployment and was also eligible for a substantial loan from the Small Business Association because they opened it up to freelancers and actors and artists and stuff.
Yeah, they did.
And so, there were some silver linings that came out of that time. But yeah, I mean, since then though, there was obviously a break in 2020, but I would say I've worked the most I've ever worked coming out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
I thought 2020 was a wash completely, and then I got a recurring role that took me from October to March into 2021, and yeah. So
is this that virus that you're talking about? Was this like TikTok? Is that what it's called?
Well, I would say that's more dangerous than what I'm thinking about, but
legitimately, I think there's been more deaths from TikTok than fucking coronavirus in the last 2 years.
Oh, that's quite a statement. I don't know about that, but yeah, no. Thankfully, I haven't had to go back, and worked a lot last year to where I don't have to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope it continues that way.
Yeah.
Because I don't have it in me to go back to bar culture
Yeah.
whatsoever. I've stepped foot in 2 bars since I've been, I hate to say, I don't like to say sober because I don't do anything, but I still will eat psychedelics once in a while. So,
yeah.
but it's such a different,
completely different. Yeah.
method. plane of thought. But yeah,
completely different drug, affects you differently.
Yeah, you know,
makes you feel different things.
I just don't go to bars. Yeah,
that's crazy. Can we talk about your relationship with like alcohol a little bit, like, because I think it's crazy. I shouldn't say crazy. Well, when I say crazy, I think it's like amazing that you've been able to keep yourself from even going in bars.
I hate them
for that long.
I've developed such a deep hatred for the smell, for the ambience. Everything about them makes me feel nauseous. Because I would say there's 10% of the time, my entire time if I'm working in bars, where I was like having a good time. Most of the time I just felt like shit because I was drinking behind the bar all the time and just getting wasted all the time. And it was easy to stay away from them because I fucking hate them. I just don't like that environment. So there's almost like a PTSD attached to it. Like it makes me like cringe. Like I walk by in the summer. I mean, it probably sounds psychotic, but like I'll walk by like in the summer and just hear the ambience of the crowd inside a bar, and I get that wafting of bar smell, like the mats and the drinks and the air, and I'm just like, I want to vomit. I hate it. And so just that innately, feeling that inside of me kind of, it makes me be like, oh yeah, I fucking hate this shit, And I also realized that I was really drinking only out of sadness and anger. And I'm pretty sure that's not the best reason to drink. So just kind of realized it wasn't serving me anymore, and that was it.
Because I think that's really interesting, even when you're talking about walking by one and feeling those things and, not wanting to go in and despising it and everything like that. Because I can say it's really interesting because, like, I think it really does depend on the relationship that you've had with alcohol, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it makes me question, like, what if how does it feel when you're at a theater and they're serving cocktails, or when you're at a mixer or a film premiere and, people are having cocktails? Do you think it's also like the environment? Because I feel like maybe these certain environments, like the type of bar, makes you also feel something. Like, do you feel like there's a difference between a dive bar or a sports bar, or like your generic bar? Because I feel like
sports bars have always been like, absolutely not going in there. But I like, fucking steer clear of those. But
yeah, but like if you're in like a fucking nice cocktail lounge, does that make you feel different? Because there's a different crowd.
Yeah, no,
definitely a different crowd.
It's quiet, If it's like there's a classiness to it, there's an elegance to it. I'm like, this is fine. I'll just have a
water or sparkling water. Yeah,
that's fine. But there's been no situation where I found myself in that kind of place in recent memory. But I would say it's mostly like dives. Like just busy sports bars and shit. It makes my like anxiety skyrocket. Everything about it makes like my skin crawl.
Well, because you know what it is, and what's really interesting is that a lot of these people that are going to those kinds of bars are also people that are drinking out of sadness and anger.
Definitely.
And they hate their lives. Yeah. And they're literally just going to the bar to get fucked up, and you're the one that has to literally fucking medicate them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, with booze and playing shrink too. That was the other thing that exhausted me, was how many times, like, especially regulars and stuff, like, I thought some of them were great people, but I just like, it would be like, I don't want to sit here and talk to you about this. Like, I'm not equipped to do it. It's not something I enjoyed doing. Depending, there's maybe a couple people that I was like, yeah, we can talk about this, or if my mood was, in the right place. But, I mean, I think that's pretty accurate that, the kind of bars makes a difference on the motives of the people who are drinking there.
Of course.
And that's not obviously across the board. I think it's everybody's their own individual and have their own individual reasons, but
right.
I'd say that there's some truth in that for sure.
Yeah. Because everybody's relationship with it is different, and obviously, you know, their motives, their intentions of why they're drinking, when they're drinking, and that's a lot for a fucking bartender to handle, which I don't think a lot of people, especially, you know, listeners, don't really quite fully fucking understand, and how it can make you drink, how it can make you like. And I'm also of the standpoint of, you know, you are always it's always your choice to do whatever the fuck you want, right? You always have a choice on how to handle whatever comes into your life, however you want to handle any situation. But when you're put in an environment like that, you know, 3-4 times a week, maybe 5 times a week, you're dealing with fucking hundreds of people a week that you have to address, talk to. They're projecting their shit onto you, their energy. The whole room is filled with this shitty, stinking dark energy of people who are coming to a bar to fucking forget about their lives, essentially. Drown their sorrows and everything like that. And then it's like you have your shit to handle as a person in your life. Meanwhile, you're trying to make money off of these people.
So you have to play doctor.
You have to play doctor. And it's like, that just makes me want to fucking drink because I already like alcohol. But, and now I have it at my fingertips, depending on where you are. You know, some places are very, very strict when it comes to drinking behind the bar as a bartender. You know, if you get caught drinking behind the bar, you can be fired on the spot.
That was the other thing.
Depending on
only work at places where I could drink behind the bar.
Of course,
that'd be a problem.
Of course,
because I was like, this is the only way I can do this.
Exactly. That's strategic though too. It's like as a bartender, you're also thinking about that shit, and you're like, well, I'm not going to go to a fucking fancy place where I can't have a drink behind the bar.
Definitely not.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. Those places were never for me.
But that's something that I've had to overcome as a bartender. Just as you've had to like overcome, you know, your relationship with alcohol. Like, I've had to overcome those things because I've worked in dive bars. I've worked in shitty bars where, you know, back in Milwaukee, I was drinking, you know, I'd be bartending 4 days a week. I'd have a regular that would come in literally every single day. Yeah,
it's depressing.
And I had to play bar dice with him every single day. And that means I'm taking a shot with him at minimum 5-6 times a night. And that's on nights that I'm working, not nights that I'm going out. Which just, you know, and then once you get 4 shots in you, you're like, well, I'm going to have another drink. And then you have another shot. And then all of a sudden your threshold for drinking is at like 10 or 12 shots to get like a good drunk. You know what I mean? On any given night, whether you be working or not.
Yeah, or you're taking shots with people it's for camaraderie's sake, or you know, or you're just trying to connect with people at the bar, and you know, or it's like you make friends with somebody, they get you a shot, you have a good conversation. It's a cute girl, you want to take shots, like whatever. It's like that's, you know, but it's just social lubrication. We all know that, and it's just like it just helps to get through it. But I needed it to even do the job. You know. Until my last year at Bazaar, where I you know, I guess I'm not a year because actually it'd been longer than that actually, because I stopped drinking in May of 2018 and it shut down November 2019.
Yeah,
so
good year and a half.
That whole time I was not drinking at the bar, and that was.
It feels great. It feels
crazy.
great. It feels great not to drink behind a bar. For any bartenders that, you know, has gone through these issues or can relate to these feelings, like if you can keep yourself from drinking behind a bar. I had to make a decision working at Le Bon back in the beginning of 2018, going through that summer where I'm like, no, like I'm not gonna drink at work for the next month.
Yep.
You know, and if I'm gonna have a drink, it's gonna be for a special reason. Like if I'm gonna have a shot, it'll be for a special reason, and I'll allow myself to have that every now and then, right? But then that just allows you to have such. You make better decisions. You get better sleep at night, especially because you're already working 8 hours. You're going to bed at fucking 5:30, 6, 7 in the morning. You know, waking up early in the next day. You don't feel as bad the next day, and that also sets you up for your next day. You're not going to be making as bad of decisions. You can go to the gym. You'll eat healthier. You're going to be drinking more water. You know what I mean?
It's such an unhealthy lifestyle for me anyway. I mean, I think back about it like now, and like I remember mornings leaving the back room at 7 a.m. and having not eaten all night and being so fucking like delirious and like but so exhausted because it was such a you know, we were slammed at that job, and the amount of work at the end of the night with like doing the checks and stuff, and it wasn't on a POS system or anything. It was just like
all calculator,
old school shit. And like I just remember like there was that McDonald's on Delancey.
On Delancey, right there, yeah.
And it was like mayhem.
Not the nicest of McDonald's.
No. There was always blood on the floor at that McDonald's. That's like every time I went into McDonald's there was always blood somewhere. So
it's one of the sketches of McDonald's in Manhattan for sure.
And everybody knows it. But I would go in there at 7 a.m. definitely drunk as shit, and eat a fucking bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit with 2 hash browns in the back of a cab going home, and like smoking a cigarette before I go to bed. And like, dude, holy shit. I think about that now, and I'm just like, I feel like my heart wants to seize, you know? It's just like,
Christ.
And I've quit all that shit. Mine is like, I don't really eat McDonald's because it was right there. It was just like, I'm so hungry. I don't fucking eat that place. And yeah, I did not treat myself well at all when I was a bartender. I just destroyed my body all the time.
I think that goes for thousands of bartenders across the nation. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
just, you know.
For sure.
And that's why that's
lifestyle.
Yeah, it's totally a lifestyle. If you let it get there, you know what I mean? It depends. Like, I think I could definitely work in, I think I can work anywhere as a bartender, honestly. From dive bars to super, fine dining.
Super Walmarts.
Kinds of super.
That's what I thought you were going to say. I was like, they have bars there?
From dive bars to super Walmarts to Subways to the Subway in the super Walmart.
Yes.
But I think it just comes down to choice, and I hope for anybody listening right now, I hope you can relate and hopefully take these experiences that him and I have as
this is not gospel, though. This is just 2 fucking idiots ranting about their own lives and their opinions. So
yeah,
if anything resonated with you, great. But this is not, this is, it's not carved in stone here.
Yeah, it's definitely not carved in stone. I'm not trying to preach to anybody, but like, I've been fortunate enough to, I've been in like the dark places of drinking a lot behind a bar. I have been in the place where I haven't been drinking at all behind a bar. And I think, this can just go to, show and serve as people that like you're not alone, and there's definitely ways to handle this. And I'm happy that you got to that point in your life where you're like, I'm done. Like, this is where I need to move on. And I kind of got to that.
I was fortunate though, in a way where I realized that like my career is working out, in some regard, know.
Yeah.
But I think if it's some people don't have that option, so they have to figure this shit out with this industry,
If you were to go back into a bartending job right now, where the heck would you want to be?
Oh, my fucking asshole just clenched thinking about it. Where would I want to what? Sorry?
What I'm saying is, if you had to go back into a bartending gig right now, hypothetically.
Oh, of course.
Where would you want to be? Like, where could you see yourself if you ever had to go back into bartending? Where would you?
Like such a pompous shit talking like this about bartending.
No,
I think it's great what people, that I respect bartenders. It's just not, I can't do it.
Anymore.
I can't do it anymore. I did it for 10 years, it's a long time. But
yeah. I mean, it's especially as an actor, it's one of the things that has been able to fuel the lifestyle that we live as actors.
It's one of the only things that works. I found anyway.
Right.
And even then, it was tough.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to go somewhere now, okay, let me. To bartend.
It doesn't have to be a specific, like, you don't need to give me an actual name of a place. Like,
no, I know. I just yeah. I get what you're saying. Jesus Christ. I keep thinking of different, like, being like, okay, like theater or a cruise ship or I'm trying to think like outside the box, not just like dive bar, whatever the fuck. I'm trying to think of everywhere that, like, I think the only but then I think about that. I'm like, oh, I'd be like a private party bartender at like the Hamptons, but then I'd probably be pissed because this is if I wasn't an actor, I'd rather do that, but because I am and I sometimes mingle with those people, I would feel like an asshole being a bartender for a private party with those kinds of people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
ooh,
I don't
that's
know
a
if
good
there's
point.
any. Well, I felt that way at Backroom because we'd have like rap parties there.
Yeah.
I remember one time, Jim Jarmusch was there. He was I think having the Patterson rap party.
Yep.
And I remember I made him a perfect Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
And
what's in a perfect Manhattan?
Oh, I don't fucking remember.
Spencer?
I don't remember,
for anybody wondering on sorry to interject here during your story, but for anybody wondering that's listening, a perfect Manhattan is a Manhattan, but you're using both dry vermouth and sweet vermouth.
That's right, yeah.
Instead of just sweet vermouth.
Perfect.
Okay, continue. So Jim Jarmusch wanted a perfect Manhattan at the back room.
And I made him one, and he took it, he left. You have to edit that.
What?
He took it. Wait, why'd you laugh?
I'm waiting to see where the story's about to go.
You gotta edit that. That was fucking silly. All right.
Why? What do you mean?
I don't know, because you laughed and I was like, wait, okay, so I lost. So Jim Jarmusch, he takes the drink, walks away, and I'm like, oh, I kind of want to tell him, but I'm not. I'm never gonna be that bartender. It's like, I'm an actor. It's like, yeah, you fucking all are. Yeah. I'm not doing that. But, there was part of me that, like, he came back and he complimented me on the drink.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, well, if you like that drink, you should see me act, bro, in my head. And I was like, all I said was, oh, I'm glad you like it, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Of course.
But just those situations, I'm like, oh, man, this is hard to do, when you feel like you want to be on the other side of the bar.
No, yeah. Oof.
So
ooh.
Those situations, I really can't figure out any place I would be okay bartending, bro. I really can't. There's nowhere.
There's nowhere.
There's nowhere that I would feel any ounce of contentment in doing so. There's nowhere.
That's crazy. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Nowhere.
I love that. I'm getting to that point, and I've kind of actually been there for a while, but I know that, and that's actually why I don't really like invite people to come see me at work. Mm-hmm. But people find out eventually because I'm working at a couple like really popular places. But yes, I can completely relate to that. And for anybody listening to the podcast, like the fucking count of actors that work as bartenders, as servers, as bussers in the New York City service industry is astronomical. We all do it. And there's nothing more like belittling or like degrading when you're behind a bar and you're like, that's the director I want to be working with. And I'm serving him drinks and he's not going to ask me any questions.
No idea who the fuck I am.
I have, like, he's here, or they're here, for a rap party, on a film that they just wrapped, and I'm serving them drinks instead of drinking with them and mingling with them.
Yeah, and it's not even so much that part about the mingling. It's more so just like, I need you to know who I am.
Exactly.
I need you to know, and it's not like I'm fucking like the best thing you've been. It's not like that. It's just like, I just want you to know who I am for future projects.
Right.
Even if I'm right for the small role in your movie or something. It's not like,
right,
if you only knew what a fucking star was in front of you. Like, that's not what I'm thinking. It's just more so because you so badly want to be a part of that world. You know, you just want them to know.
But I also think that's crazy, and I think it's funny because I know that feeling. I've had that feeling. But I think at the end of the day, you're like, you know whatever's going to come for you will come for you.
Of course.
And
also, it's a boss move. Anybody who goes, hey, by the way, if you're like, you tell this motherfucker you're an actor, maybe sometimes it will work. You never know.
It could work.
But I personally think it's a better look to just like hold it in and just
Completely.
be like, yeah, I know who I am, and
right.
I believe that maybe one day our paths will cross,
Right. And as somebody who has cast things, somebody who's written things, somebody who has directed things, as in yourself, I also have done my fair share of projects. Like, if you see somebody that you like, the way that they look, you're probably going to assume that they're an actor or a model or something like that, as I just, spoke about. Most people in the service industry are. You'd reach out to them, or you'd start a conversation with them and be like, you know what, I got a project I'm working on. Are you an actor by chance or something like that? Like,
yeah, maybe.
I
don't know. I don't know if it comes down to that. I think it would come down to having a conversation with a person and trying to, suss them out and see who they are. I don't think I would go off of looks. That wouldn't do it for me, because I've seen plenty of people that are beautiful or interesting, and I'm not like, hey, I just don't. It just have to be. It seems it doesn't feel organic to me. So it would have to be a conversation somehow got sparked, and that's where I feel like it was sparked for a reason, and then you figure out who these people are. But yeah, I don't know. I don't. Yeah.
I worked in catering for about a good 1.5 to 2 years. The first 1.5 to 2 years that I lived here. Meanwhile, I was, doing my Friday nights over at the back room, and then I was also doing 2-3 nights over at, actually, when I started working at Laban, I was doing about 3-4 nights. But in catering around New York, and I can't remember if you've ever worked catering or not.
Yeah, I've done catering.
But I think there's no other place that just feels like that when it comes to like being at a party.
Oh my god.
Where it's like
walking around with the fucking drinks
you're walking around with a tray of fucking champagne, or you're like giving little bites of food to people, and like you're sitting there and you're like, oh, that person is the lead fashion designer for Gucci. That's fucking Quentin Tarantino.
Right.
That's Leonardo DiCaprio is fucking standing over there talking to somebody, and I have a tray of like baguette with fucking smoked salmon and cream cheese on it, ready to just give it to him so he can eat it.
Right.
And you're like, meanwhile, everybody who works in catering is a fucking model or an actor or whatever.
Of course, and they know that.
And everybody knows it, and you're sitting there. It's like why the shit am I here, man?
Yeah.
I know a big model. He's actually a very big model. He was in that shit too, and I actually had a run-in with him. I had stopped bartending. This is in 2018. Sorry, this is in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't bartend. I only bartended maybe like 3 weeks out of that entire year.
Yeah.
That was when I finally ran out of money. And I go to an event, and he's at the event, and this is a big fucking model. He's at the event serving drinks and serving food for a catering job. Dog. He felt so embarrassed that he changed mid-shift. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? Like, you done working? He's like, nah, bro. He's like, I can't like be here anymore. I feel like I feel so embarrassed. And I'm like, bro, Like, it's okay. Like, you need money. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, this is what you gotta do. You gotta fucking humble yourself a little bit. Like, I know you're a big model. I know you've been on huge campaigns. I know all these people. Like, he knew several of the people, like fashion designers and casting directors and shit that were there at this event. Yeah. So it's like, this man is a huge model. He knows people that are in the room. They know him.
Mm-hmm.
I know him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's serving, I'm like grabbing a champagne from him, and like it was weird. It was a very weird situation because it's like, at the end of the day, you're a person and like you're a friend of mine, but it's also weird like that I'm like grabbing a fucking like you're like walking around with drinks and I'm grabbing a drink from you and like these other people that are in the room have hired you for a job and you're like serving them instead of being used as a model for like their campaign or whatever that's going on right now.
Well, life's unforgiving. I don't know. You got to do what you got to do. You hit hard times. You got to do what you got to do. I mean, obviously he was a huge model at some point, but I'm sure he's not doing as well as he was. So
during that time,
so he needed money,
Yeah.
And you just got to fucking suck it up and do whatever you got to do. I mean,
you do.
If it came down to it, I mean, if I had to go back to bartending, I'd deal drugs instead. That's
I love that. That's the name of this episode. That's going to be the fucking name of this episode right there.
Perfect.
If I had to go back to bartending, I'd deal drugs instead.
That is it.
Yo, Spencer, lovely fucking catching up with you today.
You too, man.
Lovely having you on the fucking podcast. I'm glad you did this, bro.
No sweat.
I love you more than anything. Tell the people where they can find you. Give them your Instagram because we know that those PR fucking companies are fucking you over.
They were. Hope no more.
Give them your Instagram, IMDb, fucking whatever you want to give them. Tell them where they can find you on TV.
I don't like this part. I'm not good at self-promotion, bro. How about yeah, all right, fine. Yeah, you can see me in a couple episodes of Pam and Tommy. It's a new Hulu series coming out in February. I'm currently recurring on Fear the Walking Dead on AMC. What else? I think that's it right now. I got a fucking spot on the episode on The Equalizer on CBS at some point this month. I don't know when. Tell your moms, because that's probably the only people who will enjoy it. And yeah, man, that's it. If you want to find my Instagram, if you really give a fuck, just search my name with SP and SER and Kyle's friends that he follows, because I'm not dropping my fucking IG tag on here. I just can't do it. I feel like such an asshole.
I'll do it for you. Instagram, Spencer Grenice. I don't think there's anything special in there, is there?
That is it.
SPENS. This man's first name is spelled with an S, not a C. Spencer Grenice. GRAN. Sorry. I'm looking at the what the fuck? I'm totally GRANESE.
Yep.
Spencer Grenice.
Yes.
Lovely having you. This was one too many. Neither of us have had one too many today. Maybe one too many laughs. We'll edit them out.
Definitely one too many laughs.
Love you, bro.
You too.
Cheers.